On the steps of a Senate hall of Rome, a man approached with immense power. He had single-handedly conquered entire nations, including his own. He now wielded control of the most powerful country in the ancient world. Meeting him on his commute were a number of senators waiting in the forum, carrying a shared intent, a conspired plan, and a concealed dagger. One approached their dictator with a petition, knowing full well the immediate answer would be sound rejection. The senator held him by the shoulders. Another used the distraction to slash the first dagger by the dictator's neck. Dozens more blades would follow. By the time it was over, Julius Caesar, famed orator, dictator perpetual of the largest organized army, of the largest republic of the ancient world, and of the conduit of civilization, had nothing but pleas to stop and a valediction. The assassination of Julius Caesar, a prominent Roman statesman and military general, marked a turning point in the history of Rome. This video delves into the events surrounding his assassination and the profound effects it had on the Roman Republic. Julius Caesar had risen to power as a military general and had become immensely popular among the Roman people. He had successfully conquered Gaul, modern-day France, multiplying the arable land available to Roman citizens. Caesar's military victories and his charisma had earned him a loyal following, which made some senators uneasy about his growing influence. Caesar's rise to power also coincided with a period of political instability in Rome. The Roman Republic, which had been established as a system of checks and balances, was gradually eroding. Many senators feared that Caesar's ambition, personal wealth, and popularity would lead to the downfall of the Republic and the rise of another kingdom of Rome. In 49 BCE, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with his army, an act that violated Roman law and marked the beginning of a civil war against Pompey and the Roman Senate. He sought to secure and expand his political power, believing that the Senate and Pompey were conspiring against him. By launching the war, Caesar could assert his dominance and protect his position as a prominent political figure. Additionally, he had ambitious aspirations to implement reforms for the empire's benefit, recognizing the opportunity to rally popular support, especially among the lower classes, by portraying himself as a champion of the people against a corrupt Senate. Furthermore, his battle-hardened, loyal army played to his strength as a strategist. Caesar emerged victorious in the civil war, defeating Pompey and establishing himself as the sole ruler of Rome. Caesar's consolidation of power alarmed more senators who believed in the traditional authority of the Senate and the preservation of the Republic. The conspirators, including Brutus and Cassius, believed that assassinating Caesar was necessary to prevent autocracy and to restore the Republic. Brutus, also known as Marcus Junius Brutus, was a senator and a close ally of Caesar. Some scholars would go as far as to claim he was Caesar's illegitimate son. After fighting alongside him in the Roman Civil War, Brutus became increasingly concerned about Caesar's growing power and potential. He believed that assassinating Caesar was necessary to preserve the Roman Republic and prevent Caesar from remaining dictator, or worse, becoming king. His brother-in-law Cassius, also known as Gaius Cassius Longinus, was another senator and a key figure in the plot against Caesar. A skilled military commander, he grew a deep-seated resentment towards Caesar. Cassius believed that Caesar threatened the traditional authority of the Roman Senate and the aristocracy. He was known for his persuasive abilities and played a crucial role in convincing other senators to join the conspiracy. Cassius was seen as more pragmatic and driven by personal ambition than Brutus. The two would vet their compatriots on a number of levels. The profile of their conspirators would be similar. Each was an aristocrat or senator to prove the takeover's legitimacy and to appease the Roman elite. Each was of reasonable age and fitness. Each man was ideologically probed. The brothers-in-law ensured each man was prepared to kill and that each had an animus against their dictator. The situation in Rome had so deteriorated that even military commanders and personal confidants who had served with Caesar joined in. Several dozen senators, commanders, patricians, and former friends of Caesar would be privy to the plan. Some contemplated adding the famous dissident senator Cicero to their ranks, but the consensus was that he was too old to partake. Others considered the young Mark Antony, but Antony's declination to join a previous plot made him untrustworthy. The plotters contemplated the outcome of their coup. Should they kill Mark Antony before he fills the political vacuum? Should they kill other Caesar loyalists? Would all of Caesar's policies be overturned? Brutus, mindful of the political optics of the assassination, declined all three addendums. Killing Caesar would be killing a wannabe king. Killing his supporters and policies would make him a martyr, given the popularity of the reforms among plebeians. After considering many venues, the conspirators chose the Senate. Caesar almost always moved with an entourage of military-aged males who would most certainly intercept any threat to his life. Since none held office, they were prohibited from entering the Senate building. The ambush would be small enough to be inconspicuous in the Senate, but large enough to overwhelm Caesar. They would come to the Senate armed on March 15, the Ides of March. Brutus's cousin, Decimus, a fellow senator, was a Lannister, an owner of a ludus, or school, for gladiators. His troop would be fighting in the theater nearby and would respond to the Senate if Caesar survived the ambush. If all else failed, Cassius told each conspirator to turn their blades on themselves, lest they suffer Caesar's revenge. On the day in question, Caesar's wife woke before dawn from a nightmare. She dreamt about holding her murdered husband. Caesar obeyed the omen and ordered Mark Antony to dismiss the Senate by proxy. After Antony delivered the news, Decimus rushed to Caesar's home and successfully convinced him to resume his duties. Antony would accompany Caesar until the doors of the Senate while a conspirator distracted him outside. At the start of business, Senator Cimbus requested Caesar approve a petition pardoning his brother from exile. Once Caesar expectedly refused, Cimbus scuffled with him, pinning him by his shoulders. Another senator, Casca, drew his dagger and nicked the dictator's neck, but was almost disarmed by Caesar, who had caught the arm with his hands and threw him aside. The other senators pounced and dug their blades throughout his body. The dictator would collapse, but the stabs would continue. The world's oldest documented autopsy found almost all wounds were superficial and only caused great pain and blood loss over time. Only one, a deep stab into his ribs, was considered fatal. Much dispute exists on Caesar's last words. Common law states, "And you, Brutus?" However, this was most certainly Shakespearean. Contemporary historians would find, in Greek, "You too, child." This is consistent with the sophistication of Roman upper society, who, to an extent, looked up to Greek culture. Though commonly interpreted as a cry of dismay, one possible interpretation is that as a warning or even an insult. Caesar may be warning his comrade that he may too suffer the same betrayal. The quote may also prove the rumors of Brutus's parentage, though this is hotly debated. After the assassination, some plotters paraded through Rome briefly to announce their victory. Brutus and Cassius soon fled Rome and formed an alliance with other senators. The assassination of Julius Caesar marked a turning point in Roman history and set the stage for the rise of Octavian. Public reaction to Caesar's assassination was a mix of shock, confusion, and anger. While some Romans celebrated it, believing it a restoration of the Republic, many others felt deeply disturbed and mourned their beloved leader. Caesar was seen as a champion of the common people and had implemented reforms aimed at improving their lives, namely, land appropriation for citizens. He has been seen as a military genius for expanding the realm and assimilating or decimating Gallic tribes. Immediately after the assassination, riots and protests filled Rome. They saw the conspirators, particularly Brutus and Cassius, as traitors against their leader and the ideals he represented. Julius Caesar's funeral became a highly charged event. Mark Antony delivered a powerful speech known as the funeral oration or friends, Romans, countryman's speech, passionately eulogizing Caesar and criticizing his murderers. Antony's speech fueled outrage towards the assassins. Octavian, only 18 at the time of Caesar's death, was in Apollonia, modern-day Albania, when he received news of his father's assassination. Realizing the opportunity to claim Caesar's legacy, Octavian quickly returned to Rome to assert his position. Octavian skillfully formed an alliance with Mark Antony and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus. Together, they formed the Second Triumvirate, a political alliance aimed at restoring order to Rome. Brutus and Cassius assembled a dissident army with sympathetic military commanders. The veteran units under their command fought under Caesar throughout many foreign campaigns and suppressed previous civil wars. Cassius ensured pay was steady and secure. Their manpower nearly equaled the loyalists with the help of Rome's frequent enemy, the Parthians. Egypt, ruled for centuries by ethnic Greeks, sided with the triumvirate. The Second Triumvirate emerged victorious. In 42 BCE, Octavian and Antony decisively defeated Brutus and Cassius in the Battle of Philippi, solidifying their control over Rome. After the defeat and death of Brutus and Cassius, Octavian and Mark Antony emerged as the two most powerful figures in Rome. The triumvirate was granted extraordinary powers, including the authority to appoint magistrates and pass laws without Senate approval. To consolidate their power, Octavian and Antony embarked on a series of proscriptions, purging their political enemies and confiscating their wealth. This brutal campaign resulted in hundreds of senators and wealthy individuals dead. However, tensions between Octavian and Antony arose. Antony, forming relationship with Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, became increasingly involved in Egyptian affairs and neglected his responsibilities in Rome. In 32 BCE, Octavian declared war on Antony, accusing him of treason by aligning with a foreign power. The conflict culminated in the naval battle of Actium in 31 BCE, where Octavian's forces decisively defeated Antony and Cleopatra's fleet. Following their defeat, Antony and Cleopatra fled to Egypt. Realizing that all hope was lost, Antony and Cleopatra took their own lives in 30 BCE. Octavian, now the undisputed ruler of Rome, annexed Egypt and brought an end to the Hellenistic era. He returned to Rome as a triumphant leader. In 27 BCE, the Roman Senate bestowed upon Octavian the title of Augustus, meaning the revered one, effectively marking the beginning of the Roman Empire. Augustus established 2 centuries of relative stability and prosperity, known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. Caesar's reign had a profound influence on subsequent Roman emperors. Caesar's deification after his assassination established the imperial cult, where emperors were worshipped as divine figures. This practice continued throughout the Roman Empire, legitimizing the authority of emperors and solidifying their position as the supreme rulers. Julius Caesar's most enduring legacy lies in his name. Over time, his name has become synonymous with notions of tyranny, conquest, anti-heroism, and imperial rule. The very words Kaiser in German and Tsar in Russian are derived from the majesty of Roman rulers. His story finds itself in plays, books, movies, TV shows, and even commercials. For nearly 2 millennia, Julius Caesar has been depicted as both villain and victim, as triumphant and tragic, as both deity and dictator. To those who plunged their blades into him, he represented their greatest fear. As Caesar bled out before the Senate, perhaps his greatest fear was not finding the right strategy, the right policy, or the right words to halt the inevitable.